June 18th, 2022. So this week, was flipping through the stations of availability, and watching this January 6th thing. On it, I've heard this word in the human diction, not often. Again, I speaking as a verb, and it being a noun that's pronounced, person, place, or thing. And then for it to appear inside of the English capture, whatever, and then the study of the word and the ghost spell of how the humans are performing this whatever. There's this word ignoramus. I've heard it. The context is not nice. They have a word that goes along with it called dunce. D-U-N-C-E. I'm like, Then for it to actually appear on the television as a credit to an ignoramus in action, capturing something on video, I'm like, that's interesting. So on this Eyewitness News, there's this image of this January 6th something that happened in the human population, and they're acknowledging ignoramus. Stephen Ignoramus, to be exact, on YouTube. They also have a mention of a mogul son. He also captured something to do with this January 6th calm. But when I look up what ignoramus is, the Google for gallons, gas, for sickles and nuts, it says ignoramus is George Rugal. I've heard of frugal. I've heard muggle. And now this Rugal, who I'd never heard of in this version of human that's been illuminated in some socially engineered, bioengineered, mentally engineered way of assimilating or meeting at the mind of something to really get to know what the other knows in some psychological, I don't know what. I myself have mentioned this word rusel that I don't hear ever in the human construct, not by television, not by story. I just took my last name. I took the word puzzle and I changed it to rusel instead of ruza, to try to figure out in like an OCD at orient, center, and direct what my intent is. So there's puzzle, that's with a P. Humans know what that is. And that's what, for me, these little pieces are. But the rusel is like a 360-degree realm and beyond, and the great beyond that in space, and how they're constructed and work, whatever, or don't work. So it says that this ignoramus is a college farce. again, not something my level of human learned from other humans. Not something my human person has learned from outside the home human persons, and home not being head of ministry in the East, the home being this residential flat Linda and Lou brought me home to from the hospital. And then whatever lays just outside the door on the street that I'm able to bump into in some like random selection, which is really not the case, but whatever. And then it's 1615 is this academic play, so they mention. They say it's written in Latin, which again, going back to Purdue, this ox movement, this Roman numeral of the 10 and the 9 being the 19th century, this brotherhood between two flags that get very confusing if you know and have the opportunity to have all the time in the world and nothing to spend it on in useful conjecture, where Cuba and Puerto Rico have this really intimate, playful way of asserting their brotherhood in a rectangle pattern for whatever they're up to, written in Latin. Then there's the most famous, it's considered ignoramus, the most famous and influential academic play. It's considered English Renaissance as far as the drama goes. I've not studied their telenovela, but this is what they're considering a drama. And then it's Trappolara, an Italian comedy by Giambattista del Porta. I'm like, wow, okay, so the Americans have this thing they call the GI Bill. I think it had like a 1945 reference. If I look on the USA calendar, there's some date in June coming up of importance with that. Not quite sure what that's about. But if I break and go spell the word down, it's G and then it's I am bat. And then it's Tista del Porta of the door. Battle of the Door. And then it has a March 8th, 1665 date to it. March being the third month, so that would be the 3/8 in, as far as I'm concerned, the mind FOOTZA, the FOOJA. In the brokenness. So I found that really interesting. I'm like, wow, ignoramus really does exist as a noun. It's pronounced in the corner of the televised portion. I don't know, again, in the mystical wisdom or mystical ability of why was I able to pause this in just the right moment and look up and see ignoramus right above my dunce cap. Again, it's when the time stops or time stands still and humans as they know it in New York no longer move or exist, and I enter what I refer to as my happy place, where it's just the people that I belong with, and they do this at some capacity of professionalism that they really like, and I would really like to be around more of them and less of this nothingness. But here we are on the world stage together, and I have no idea what theater they're operating out of. It's just interesting to view in real time, real world, how the pieces of their George Rugal is working. It's star 1978, star 8378. And here it is in moving image. I mean, because there's like a story. I mean, like the telenovela, I guess, goes on behind it, or the drama goes on behind it. But it's just interesting about this Stephen Ignoramus. And then, of course, there's Igno. I mean, there's Ignot. If you've got an ore, a raw ore of something, and then you polish it and make it into a beautiful bar with something, some other process in the industrious for which I'm not also a part of. But again, that's like vitri and vitrification and the melting of sand into glass in some magical process. I mean, like the Murano knows, but and that's off of Italy. But and then you've got Ramus, and then there's the Ram in the US. I mean, again, Ghost Spell, it breaks down a couple of different ways. Between goats that neutralize things and the rams that go from an ore to a bar to a... Oh, there's just so much integrated, like articulated in an articulation of so many different senses and sentient and centurion, so on and so forth. Again, it's Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxies, Broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.